Hey, everybody. I'm Pat Castaldo. I used to live here, proverbially and literally here in the theater for a long time. Diana and I met in 92, I think, and I can't remember exactly when, but we became fast friends and just did a lot together. And she meant the world to me, and I'll be your host today where we hear from stories from everybody else. First, it's like everybody in this theater, there's this connective thread of Diana that was amazing, and that's because she was herself always. She was always Diana, but she was a different Diana for everyone, not like a chameleon, but like she was the Diana you needed, the person and the friend who brought to you, I don't know, made you. I always think when people say, oh, it made you a better person, it's like a little cheesy, but it's true. I think for me, she was always there as a friend, whether it was during my high times or low times, she was always there. And even if we hadn't talked in a few weeks, I could call her, we could watch the X-Files, and things would be better. And so it's obviously, we're all sad that she's gone, but she also, I don't know, left in all of us what, like an instruction on how to be a person, how to be a friend, how to be an Olympian, I think, in the way that you show up. You show up to things, you participate in things, you be part of the community, and you try to make it better. So there's all these different versions of Diana that we each knew individually because we're the only ones who could know it. But as a whole, when we see these pictures of her, we see that same Diana in every single picture, whether it's with Claude and her mom, whether it's as a goth in high school, or whether it's behind the mic or behind the mixing board at Chaos. There's so many different Dianas, but she meant a ton to all of us. And so thank you all so much for being here. And so we've got a bunch of stuff planned. There's 4 or 5 people who wanted to do songs to remember Diana. There's family who's going to come up first and talk. And then there is other folks who've expressed they want to come up. And then after that, if you're so moved, raise your hand and come on up. So I'd like to start it with her cousin Greg, who I've had the pleasure of meeting and text chatting with this week. And he's going to cover kind of how the family felt. So thank you, everybody.
Well, good morning. We're going to open with a prayer. Father God, and author of all things good, we have gathered in this place to celebrate the passionate life of Diana. In this time of celebration, we reflect on the impact of her presence on our life, our family, our community, and the world around us. We are grateful to have experienced and been part of such an incredible life. May her zeal and infectious spirit remind us of how blessed we are to have known her. As we reflect and celebrate today, we also acknowledge the air of sorrow that rests upon us as we grapple with a life of living our days without her physical presence. Your word tells us, "Blessed are those that mourn, for they shall be comforted." And we humbly ask for your comfort on this day, and then in days ahead, we ask these things in your name. Amen. Sorry about that. On April 18th, 2025, Diana Lynn Arens departed this life and entered into her eternal rest and peace. Her sudden departure has left those that loved and cherished her presence caught completely unaware. Those who preceded Diana in her passing are her father, Michael Arens, her paternal grandparents, John and Robert Arens, her maternal grandparents, Dolly and Charlene Fessler, her maternal great-grandparents, Charlie and Pauline Davis, her maternal great-aunt, Louise Ashley, and paternal uncle, James Michael Arens. She is survived by her mother, Suzette Arens, brother Bob Arens, and her loving partner of 16 years, Claude Coates. her maternal great-uncle Freeman Davis, maternal uncle Bill Oberly, maternal aunt Vonnie Acosta and her husband Alan, and paternal aunt Estelle Arens, and a whole host of cousins, dearest friends, and colleagues. Diana entered this world on June 13th, 1970. She was the younger child born to Michael and Suzette Arens. From a very early age, Diana was a gifted and penchant learner. She excelled at whatever she had laid her hands to accomplish. In 1988, she graduated from Auburn Senior High School and went on to pursue a BA from Evergreen State College with degrees in political science, communications, and psychology, and she graduated in 1993. Early on in her career, she embarked on a journey in the helping professions. Initially, she worked for Catholic Community Services, where she provided help and assistance in activities of daily living to vulnerable senior citizens. From there, she went on to work for the Thurston County Refugee Center, where she taught English as a second language to young women who had transitioned from Southeast Asia. In 1990, she embarked on a career with community resources in Olympia, where she would serve for the next 23 years. As her mother would say, she just loved people, and she loved to be of service to those in need. These experiences provided a great foundation that served her well in the many years to come. During this period in her life, Diana also realized she had a strong love for radio broadcast. In this role, she was really in her element, and from 1991 to 2008, she served as the independent event manager and promoter for the radio broadcast Free Things Are Cool. She loved people and a bargain, so you can imagine how she thrived in this role. One of her fondest memories was hosting her great-grandmother Pauline Davis on her radio broadcast. Her life was about family and serving others, but always with excellence. Diana also served as recording engineer with Yo-Yo Recordings, and if I get any of this wrong, I greatly apologize. And in 1992, served as the program director for Evergreen College KOAS, Olympia Community Radio 89.3. From 1995 to 2001, she was an on-air announcer with KXXO Mix 96.1 as well. Her audio engineering and promotional talents helped to launch many local musicians in Olympia, the state of Washington, and beyond. In the midst of all these accomplishments, in 2015, she received a Master of Public Administration, MPA Public and Nonprofit Administration degree from Evergreen State College. After graduating, she became a financial forecast analyst with DSHS, Aging and Long-Term Support Administration, then went on to serve the Washington State Office as the Attorney General's Senior Operational Budget Manager. In her final role before her passing, she was the Senior Budget Analysis, Senior Management Analysis for the COVID-19 project with the Thurston County government. Diana didn't self-promote her talents and abilities. She took the high road of silence on her accomplishments and focused her life on helping others. So, on behalf of the family, we would like to express our heartfelt appreciation for the overwhelming outpouring of love and support during this most difficult time. Your words of comfort and acts of kindness have touched our hearts, and Suzette and Claude and the immediate family will always be grateful. Like many of you, once I learned of her passing, I couldn't help to reflect on the impact she had even on my own life. I'm her second cousin. Her mom is my first cousin, but we were closer in age. That's kind of the timeline for us. And as a kid, I would always look forward to the Arens coming to California for family visits. I will say, though, she was always quite the know-it-all and loved to tattle. Unfortunately, I loved to pick on her. And as you look at these pictures today, a lot of it had to do with her hairstyles. I was always early on infatuated with her bangs that you'll notice in some of these pictures. And then she shaved her hair off, and then she got the 90s do, and you've seen it all. That didn't always go so well for me, as you can only imagine, because she would call in my cousin Susie for reinforcement. On one such visit, I asked her a question. I probably didn't word it well, and she just rolled her eyes at me. I asked her why she rolled her eyes at me, and she clearly stated and informed me that I was just outright weird. Time would tell, but we seemed to have that in common. In our family, Diana was the golden child of academics, and often you would see her at family events off in the corner of the room reading novels at 7 years old. Even then, I felt challenged by her. She had a brilliant intellect, as many of you can surely attest to that, and at times was a bit overwhelming and intimidating. As we got older, I avoided debates with her, as I would end up getting the raw end of the deal, as I'm sure many of you can attest to that as well. Then she went through the hair and goth phase, and that was always quite special. After high school, I joined the Navy, and my ship came to Seattle, and Susie and Mike invited me to stay with them in Auburn, and Diana was away at the time. And Susie kind of prefaced my visit by saying, "You're going to be staying in Diana's room. And let's just say it's a bit different. Let's just say it looks something like Dungeons and Dragons, Harry Potter, and Venom on steroids all rolled into one." I had never slept in a black room before with lots of rubber snakes. But I made it through the night. Like in most families, people grow up, move on, and start a life of their own. And it wasn't until after social media came on the scene that we reconnected in some truly meaningful ways. Gone were the childhood jealousies. Both she and I had changed. We found we had more in common than we thought. We shared a passion for the search for truth. We just approached it differently, both in our personal lives, but also in our family history. You see, we had a cousin reunion about 10 years ago. And when we showed at the cousin reunion, of course, unfortunately, Diana couldn't be there because her schedule was a little full, as you can see. And she had the wonderful idea of having us all take DNA tests. So Susie shows up at this cousin reunion with all these DNA tests. She says, Diana wants you to spit in this thing, and I'm going to take it home to her. And I said, what's she going to do with that? So she's going to tell us about our backgrounds and our origin. Well, up to that point in my life, I'd always been told that I was Native American, or my history was Native American. So about a month later, I called Diana. I said, hey, did you ever get the results from those DNA tests? And she says, oh, cousin. She says, I will not break the surprise. I'm going to send it to you. Well, I found out that I was not Native American, and my sons who had tattooed Thunderbirds on their arms were now quite disappointed. What I did find out is that I was 12% African, and it was a long story to that. But the search for truth came because we had a family that was rather messy, and I think that's sometimes not unusual in these days, right? And we're all trying to sort out who we are and where we came from and what our origins were. Well, those DNA tests shocked our worlds. Not only my world, but other people found out that the dad that they thought they had wasn't the dad. Yeah, and it was interesting sorting out all that, but she was transparent, and she wanted to know the truth about our family. And now we've all been trying to figure out what we're going to do with all this truth for the rest of our lives. She was always about family, and during COVID, she called not only her immediate family, but extended family members, and she had already scheduled appointments for their COVID tests all across the nation. She found a location that was in their site. She researched it, and she said, I got your appointment at 11 o'clock tomorrow. That on top of everything else. Diana had a basic philosophy, and I think it was like this, is she was a leader. And her philosophy was lead, follow, or get out of the way because I'm coming through. She was a perfectionist who strived for excellence. In this last week, I've been looking at her albums and her electronic files of photographs. Do you know that she has 12,000 pictures just of white flowers? She has 18,000 pictures of purple flowers. She has 12,000 pictures of cats with hats. And I could go on and on and on, but it was all about organization. Whether it was her career, her love for her parents, her love for her partner, her love for family, her love for community, her love for music and art, her love for people, her love for the disenfranchised, her passion for the oppressed. Her love was an action word, because I believe she felt love with action is just a word. As we celebrate the impact of her life and many accomplishments, I can't help but to think how it challenges each one of us. First of all, she lived an authentic life, and that's rare in our world today. You always knew where you stood with Diana because she would tell you. And that she encouraged us to live a life where truth is the standard. Live your life for others and to stand up for what is right, even in the face of great adversity. And to always leave our world a better place than we found it. I'd like to read a bit of reflection from her mom, if I can make it through it. Susie says to everyone, or Suzette as some of you know her, she says that Diana would be humbled by today's events. She would be the first to do this for someone else. She truly lived unconditional love. Whatever anyone needed, she was ready to help, not expecting anything in return. I'm glad she got to travel as much as she did. She loved museums and meeting people. I was lucky to be included to many trips. The family is grateful to hear stories about what Diana meant to their lives. She meant everything to ours. I know she would want all of us to take care of each other and to enjoy life to the very fullest. That is what I hope to do. Today was all about celebrating Diana, and I believe we're doing that. Love to everyone that puts their heart and soul into making today special. I know she is with us always. So we say this today, that she be at peace, dear cousin. Her work here on earth is done, and now the task lies to us to pick up the mantle and move forward. And I think she begs the question is, what will we do with the days that we have left? What kind of experiences will we want to have? How will we acknowledge and support our families and love the people that have graced our lives? I think she asked us that question today. Her impact is not over because she rests within each of one of us. And so I think we have a bit of a job to do. Else she'll remind us later on in the days ahead, in the afterlife, of what we didn't do. Thank you so much.
Oh, we could be done. Cousin Greg, that was awesome. It was... when you break out those words, radios, throw that one away, but Olympia community and the people who are here now, the first thing that comes to my mind is just how lucky we are, how lucky as a community we've been to have each other, especially Diana in it, but just what it means to have community. And it's like Diana was this key figure in so many of our lives across so many of the sub-communities within town. As we were coming in, I heard Paul and Audrey talk about Chaos and the Film Society and how kind of separate they are. And they are historically two very separate entities, but two very Olympia entities. And I think of the people who've bridged that over the years, and nobody more than Diana was that bridge. She was between this community of the Film Society and the Capitol Theater and the Chaos community. And so when I see all the people in this room, just as I was saying this, each of us had our own Diana. She was that bridge between all of us. And it's like she was there, and she didn't care if you were cool or a nerd or you were a radio person or a Film Society person. She was there to see you as she was and as you were, and she was a bridge in that way. There's a few folks watching these photos. There's a few folks who couldn't be with us today because of distance and time, and two of them I talked to a bit before, and that's Taewon Yu, was a great friend of hers who wasn't able to come, and Kim Ya Dawson also wrote a loving thing on Facebook about her relationship with Diana. And both of them, I think, would tell you that she was an advocate for everyone, and she definitely was. And so the first person I'm going to have come up and do a song, which is also, to me, a bridge to Olympia and someone I think of when I think of the word Olympia and community, and that's Lois Maffeo. So, Lois, if you could come up.
My heart is with Diana and with all of you who shared the experience of being her friend. And this is a song about friendships and echoing what Pat said about I'm just going to sing. I love the way you look at things and all the joy your laughter brings. I love the things you shout about, what makes you mad, what makes you doubt, and what you see in me is what I try to be. I love what you think's interesting, from simple to bewildering. Bring them closer every day and try to shoo the rest away. The world that you see is the way it should be. ba 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 ba. The world that you see is the way it should be. The way I'd like to be. For Claude and Susie, thank you.
Sit here. That might be the first time Lois has played where I haven't heckled in between songs like ever. And it's one of those things, not a heckle, but Diana and I would drive up, and one time we went up, and it was in the Washington, like University of Washington ballroom, and Diana and I were in the back. Lois played a song, and then I joked. I mean, I've always made stupid jokes, and Diana's always been right next to me, but I yelled something dumb, and Lois is like, Pat? Like, you couldn't see me, but you knew I was there, and you probably knew Diana was there next to me. And so Diana and I would travel to Seattle a lot. Like, we would go see shows, and one of the places we would go was our friend Paul's, and I had never known Paul except he was the guy in Seattle that had kind of a nice apartment. Like, that was, I mean, I think that was how I first met, is me showing up one time with Diana, like, you can sleep on the couch. Cool, thanks. But I'd like to call up her good friend Paul Goldberg to talk. And you don't have to sit down. I'll move the mic for you. Do you know how these microphones work at all?
Peter Ranlat taught me once. I'm not sure I still remember, though.
All right.
Thank you, Pat.
Yeah, you see my notes? Heckle, Lois,
Heckle,
next
Lois.
to Diana. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, tighten things up here. Uh-oh. We have a... there we go. I always used to say never put a recording engineer on a microphone. Things do not go well. We don't get heard very much because we're behind the scenes, and so we love to really get into it. I wanted to start, thank you, Pat, and thank you, Lois. That was beautiful. I really enjoyed it, and I was glad to be here for that. I wanted to start just by saying thank you for being here. Thank you to Audrey and OFS for making this possible. Thank you, Aaron Cruz. Brooks worked on the slideshow and just did an enormous amount of work there, and Erica and Greg and Jenny and Pat and Paul Pearson and just the whole group of people. If I left you out, I'm very, very sorry. But this wouldn't have happened. We said many times we had a couple of Zoom calls about the event, and we said many times, this would be easier if Diana was organizing it. A lot of people did contribute to this, to Claude and Susie and Bob and Greg. Her love for you was shared with all of us, and I hope that you can see that love manifest today in all these faces being here. When Diana and I first met at Evergreen 37 years ago, she was gaming with friends, also known as beating everybody. She was pretty good. As we chatted for a bit, it was immediately clear just how smart she was. I was pretty much intimidated right off the bat, and she hadn't even had her first full quarter in college yet. So we found a lot of common ground. I came to learn that she was obsessed with truth, the nature of justice, feminism, equality, bias recognition, rights for the underserved and underrepresented, and music. The list only grew over time. She was a serious student, and she had the facts to back up how she thought and felt. Looking back over all these years, I'm not surprised how she impacted so many people and accomplished so much. My experience of Diana: she was driven, smart, a free thinker. She was unencumbered by guilt or awkwardness of these facts. Diana didn't apologize for her presence or the space she occupied. She didn't dumb herself down or make herself smaller to ease others. I was so inspired by that. I had never seen it so clearly in a young woman. There was a time where Diana and I would talk on the phone every single night before bed, sharing our days and struggles. I was lucky to have that kind of support and friendship. Some days she kept me afloat. Although we talked less frequently the last 10 years as she built her life with Claude and her mom, Susie, when we would reconnect, it felt like we never had to restart. We just could take off from where we were. Diana was fully possessed of herself. She didn't change who she was based on who she was in front of. She was always herself. She had her own compass, and she didn't stray. It didn't matter how big a star somebody was, how rich they were, or how humble. She was herself, and facts were facts. Diana accepted me as I was. She wasn't waiting for a more perfect version of me. I was okay as is. And I'm guessing a lot of you experienced that too. To be seen. I am so lucky that I had Diana's friendship, its support, insight, and inspiration for all these years. There's nothing like, excuse me. There's nothing like reading one of her and Claude's Christmas letters to remind you to get out there and do it. Do it whatever it is you feel compelled, and don't apologize. In fact, maybe even do it bigger and louder. And if people judge you and judge your efforts, you don't listen. You keep putting it out, sharing yourself, showing up. Thank you, Diana. Your friendship is a fabulous gift, and I'll miss you.
On the back, the QR code, I'm not going to sell it anymore, but on the back, there's also a link on that page to the Olympia Music Project, which is this project that's been trying to record oral and written histories of the things we did here as a community in the late 80s, 90s, beyond. And so if you have a story about Diana, I think that would be a great place to share it so that it lives on in that way as well. Because you just look at these pictures. I mean, it's like her and Sam Jane, her with everybody. I mean, just everybody got to play her show. I mean, like, didn't matter if you had 3 fans or you were Beck. It really didn't matter. And that's like, that's that lucky thing about the Olympia community and what we did here. I'm going to pause the slides, and we're going to play a video that Chris Sand made of a song that Diana helped record the album to. He made it, and he'll talk and introduce it. But Chris Sand, everybody.
Dear Diana, I hope you know I was one of your biggest fans. Get it? I have sure been sad since I found out of your leaving this plane of Earth, but I feel like you're out there listening somehow with us all. Thanks for making Olympia awesome and being there for me, and for recording a couple of my albums and dragging me to some of the most amazing shows I've ever seen, and just being a solid community member. It's quite phenomenal. Here's a song that you recorded called Love's Hangover Sale. If I was a singer-songwriter, I'd write a song that went like this. if I was a bull rider, I'd ride a bull that could not miss. If I was a street fighter, I would use my fists. Yeah, if I was a coal miner, I'd try to kiss your ruby lips. Love hangs over, love's hangover sail. Love hangs over, love's hangover sail. And if I was a stargazer, I'd gaze into your pretty eyes. And if I was a trailblazer, I'd blaze across your starry skies. If I was a laser, I would lay me down and cry. If I was the Lone Ranger, I guess I'd have an alibi. Love hangs over, love's hangover sail. Love hangs over, love's hangover sail. Everything goes for $1. For 25 bucks you can have it all. Everything goes for $1. For 25 bucks you can have it all. And if I was a millionaire, I'd put a flower in your hair. If I could choose a career, I guess I'd be an auctioneer. If I'd stayed back in Wyoming, we both might feel much better. And if I could stop my roaming and rambling and the gambling, we still might be together. Love hangs over, love's hangover sail. Love hangs over, love's hangover sail. Everything goes for $1. For 25 bucks you can have it all. Everything goes for $1. For 25 bucks you can have it all. You can have it all. Everything must go, everything must go. Radio must go, waterbed must go, bread machine must go, trampoline must go, Studebaker, popcorn maker. Love's hangover sail. Arrogance must go, jealousy must go, bitterness, self-deprecation, all shame, all blame, all guilt must wilt. Love's hangover sail. 23, 23, do I hear 24, 24, do I hear 25, 25. Sold to the gal in the red dress. Love hangs over, love's hangover sail. 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 Woo, 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 woo. going down to Butcher Holler. Any little gal can follow. Any little gal can follow. Any little gal can follow. Going down to Butcher Holler. Any little gal can follow. Any little gal can follow. Any little gal can follow. All her love tends to hang over. Love's hangover sad. I love you lots. Hi, everybody in Olympia. I miss you. I wish I could be there.
I'm going to bring up Paul Pearson to talk about Diana some more.
Didn't expect to follow that. Hi. This feels strange. The first person I ever met that came from Olympia was Diana. And I've been spending the last 45 minutes sitting next to the second. At the time that we met, I had no idea that Olympia would eventually become my hometown. Well, technically Tumwater. It's not a downgrade. We got an airport, yeah. And in time, even though we spent a lot of time together at Chaos, and I've come back to Chaos, and I was in the studio the day after we heard the news, and it just felt very strange to be there and know that she wasn't around, or that she would no longer be there in person, which is even stranger since Chaos has moved since the time that we were there. But everything that I feel about Olympia and everything that I've perceived about Olympia, Diana kind of represents and has sort of resonated throughout the last 31 years of my knowing her. Her belief, her passion for the underserved, her strong belief in equality, and her consistency. I don't recall, I don't think I ever encountered her getting angry or out of hand. Maybe she yelled, woo, at a concert. That's about the loudest I've ever heard her raise her voice, and she's always been consistent. And I'm very proud to have even been in the room, let alone going with her to see Madonna, in Seattle together. I think that was the last time that we hung out. But it just feels strange that we are here in Olympia on a Saturday morning and that Diana is left this realm, at least physically. And forgive me if I'm just repeating some talking points from earlier with all of you in the foyer, but it's just very strange that she is not going to be physically present. She will, however, be present in Olympia from now on. And that's what's important. I'll just say I learned a lot from her and never thanked her. I thanked her for like certain things, but not for that. So I'd like to do that now. As Nick Cave once sang, I don't believe in a interventionist God, but I'm going to point upward anyway and say thank you, Diana.
We are lucky. We really are to all be touched. And it's looking at these photos over the years, I think we always thought there was going to be one more photo next to her. It's like, I got to thank everyone who submitted photos, because I've seen ones of myself next to her that I don't remember, but they're being taken. But I remember once I see them that, of course, we walked in together, or of course I was there at her graduate degree. It's just like we always think there's going to be one more chance for a photo, and there won't with Diana, which is like why we're all here. But we are so lucky to have had them while we can. And I'm going to invite up someone who was often by her side, Christine Corey, to do something. Christine was one of Diana's best friends as well. Thank you.
Oh, it's kind of in tune. I usually like to give myself the best chance possible by being in tune. Thank you to the organizers. Do you ever get hot flashes? I was saying to somebody in the lobby that, wow, there's a lot of people who look like Mr. Hooper now. I was like dying. Susie and Claude and Bob, I love you so much. Thanks for all the pizza. So, Diana always said, if you ever don't know what to do, ask 3 friends, and if they all say the same thing, do it. A lot of times I just ask her. I finished this yesterday and I'm kind of nervous. Let's see. Even though you're gone, I still remember how much you loved me. All was said and done. In the end, Oops, here we go. Even when you're gone, I will remember how much you love me. Spirits linger on in memories and little songs. We who are left behind, wanting to believe, crossing to the other she will fight, believe. Even when I'm gone, please remember how much I love you. 'Cause even broken hearts still go on beating, still go on beating. Standing on a bridge, if I jump, I could fly. Thanks for being here, everybody.
You did great.
No drum solo.
You did great. I literally wrote, "Thank you, Christine," so I wouldn't forget. But thank you, Christine. Thank you, Paul. So far, it's just like everybody had this great picture of Diana. And it's like, as everyone keeps getting up and sharing it, it's just like, you all knew that. You're here because you knew it. And I'm bringing up Jenny Jenkins next, then Arrington. And then if anyone else wants to say something, just wave to me when I come out, and I'll add you to the list and we can come up. I'm strangely thinking a lot about the cats she's had over the years. And it's like, part of it's looking at those photos and just remembering them. And just, I don't even like cats, but like those cats were as much, no, they were as much I'm allergic, okay? They're as much a part of my life back then as Diana was. And so it's like, I think about those cats now, and Claude even told me they're not sure what to do. And it's like, that's what I think a lot of us are feeling right now, is like a little angry, a little feisty, of just like, what are you supposed to do when that presence is gone? And so here's Jenny Jenkins. Thank you.
That's much higher than I. Sorry. So, I think I met Diana at Chaos when I first started hanging out there, right after my freshman year, and like the summer after, and then I like. It's where I met most of my close friends for a long time, and she was just so impressive, and she always seemed like a grown-up. Like, I still feel like she was more grown-up than I was right now. She was like, really believed in important things. Like, she did a lot of work for the public good. Like, I don't know if people, I don't know. Like, I feel like people don't necessarily realize how somebody like that, how much good impact they have on their community, because she did. So sometimes I remember her telling, like, we were the two, for a long time we were like the two fat girls that with dark hair that went to shows. And we both got, well, maybe some other people, but I just remember her, sorry. People used to get us mixed up sometimes, so I think we were both a little offended. But, what? We were all the same person, yeah. Yeah, but anyway,
she was definitely annoyed that people were getting us mixed up. But and I think I was a little annoyed at the time, but I'm feeling a little bit honored now because I'm gonna miss her a lot, and I'm feeling really stupid that I haven't hung out with her in a long time. So I hope somehow that she sees how much we love her. So, and yeah, a long time ago, I had a birthday party. I had talked people at the track house I used to talk people into letting me have parties at their houses. Apparently, I think I had an apartment. Anyway, and there was all kinds of people there, and then they left, and Christine and Diana were still there, and they were talking, and they were teasing me like, oh yes, we've been talking, and all those other people, they're not your real friends. We're the ones that are going to be here for you in the end. So I'm kind of pissed that she left the party so early. But anyway, here we are. Yeah. So, okay. Oh, there. Oh, I'm like, I exist. Okay, I'm going to try to do this. We'll see how it goes. This is a song about that I wrote after when I was late to a city council meeting. This was such a good week, till I had to go start talking about feelings, and you said you don't know, 'cause that's your answer for everything. I lost the key to your building. Oh, how will I ever survive? I can't sleep without all your snoring. I'm supposed to send emails tonight. I'm supposed to send emails tonight. And drummer is pissed. She is flying to Europe, but first she must finish her book. And I said that I would write something on how sound works, and now it is late and I can't get a hold of her. I lost the key to your building. Oh, how will I ever survive? I can't sleep without all your snoring. I'm supposed to send emails tonight. I'm supposed to be with you tonight. And Erica's brother died just on Friday. I had to go hug her and sing her song, yeah. I guess it's been 34 years since my mother died. Everyone dies and you have to go on. And I lost my heart to you, sweetheart. Oh, how will I ever survive? I can't be happy without you, but I'm supposed to do something with my life. I'm supposed to do something tonight. Okay, here's the microphone. Diana was smart, like so sharp she could cut you. She worked really hard, so brave and so strong, but then deep inside she was so sweet and tender. I should have made more time, it's been way too long. She always knew best, and that could be annoying, but then she was usually right. She really believed in good music and helping folks, cats and red lipstick. Don't give up the fight, and I lost my heart to you, sweetheart. Oh, how will I ever survive? I can't be happy without you, but I'm supposed to do something with my life. I'm supposed to do something tonight. I'm supposed to do something tonight. Thanks to the family especially.
Arrington, you want to come up? Special guest star, David, who was known as Fezdak at the time.
This up here. So David wants to say a little something. I might say a little something. I want to play some music.
So I moved here to go on the radio, and I hadn't been living here long, and we got a slot, like primetime slot, Wednesday nights at like 8 p.m. And we did our first show, and then it was Diana that had to fire us. And she actually was the one who hired us, too. So it was like really quick, one show, and it was like, no, you cannot do that. And a lot of people don't even know what that one show was because almost no one listened to it. It was our first show. But we had brought like a couple dozen middle school kids into the performance studio and just told them to talk for the whole hour. There was no plot. There was no point. It was just an hour of them talking. And they were like, yeah, that's not a radio show that anyone's going to pledge money to this community radio station for. So we were canned, and but it was Diana who went to bat for us, and it was Diana who came up with the negotiation that as long as we ran the concept of the show by everyone before we did it, and they approved it, that we could keep doing crazy radio shows. I've never had a chance to publicly say that we ran the world record of urine show by Chaos before we did that, and we got approval. But we still got fired for that, ultimately, permanently. But something else that I've never said publicly that I just thought of now was that I don't know if any of you benefited from Happy Squad. I don't know, maybe. But I realized I did. And it made me who I am, that I got to do such really fucking crazy radio for a year and a half of my life, and I got to fall in love with this man. And that was a big deal, and Diana was a big part of that. So I just want to say, I never got to say it to Diana, but thank you for going to bat for us.
Okay. I had a few things I wanted to say. I probably should have written it down. So, in a place like Olympia, with such a fervent music and arts community, you have a lot of people who are kind of vying for attention. You have a lot of people who are doing their thing, trying to do their thing, and they want to kind of be front and center. And you know, hey, this is this thing I'm doing. Like, I'm doing a show, and I've got a radio show. I'm making a movie. I'm doing a thing. I got this art exhibit opening. You know, all those kinds of things. And you're kind of passing the same $5 back and forth between everyone who comes to check out your thing, ultimately, because it's a lot of people competing for that kind of attention, as it were, and not really like a massive fan base. Well, Diana, I think she was kind of like everyone's fan, and she didn't want to be the front and center person, but when the word gets out, when we all talk to each other and realize what an essential part of this community she has been from, I mean, kind of for most of us, the very beginning of our Olympia experience, I really sincerely feel like there is going to be like a history book about Diana and all of the different artists and musicians that she had such an inestimable impact upon. And I'll just kind of just say a couple things from my personal experience. She was really the first real advocate that I had for my music. I mean, even before our crazy radio show, I was so excited to learn about KAOS, and I wanted to get involved right away. And they're like, well, you know, we kind of don't want freshmen to get involved in fall quarter because, too many people volunteer and then drop out. It's like, oh no, okay, I'll wait till winter quarter. But I gave her a cassette tape, my 4-track mixes of all my crazy songs, and she's like, oh, cool. And she played it that night on a radio show, and I was like so delighted, and like I felt like I'd been seen by someone. And this is back in those days before we had cell phones. I have not dialed this number in many years, but why do I still remember 943-8185 from memory? I have that number ingrained on my brain because there was always someone answering on the other side of that line. And I remember, we used to have very long talks about radio and music and all sorts of things. For a while, I was a co-host on Free Things Are Cool for a few years. We would kind of tag team it every other week. Also, Diana produced the first album, the first real album that I did that wasn't a cassette tape. Back when Dub Narcotic Studio was in Calvin's basement at his house before the whole era of the big studio days happened. She kind of became like a fourth band member during the process of that recording because, or like a, not just a recording engineer, but also like band psychologist to sort of help us kind of navigate that real tricky process of like, well, how do you record an album, and like, what does this even mean to us that we're, putting all these songs that we've worked so hard on down to tape and getting them out into the world somehow. She was such an essential part of that. During the pandemic, during kind of I would say one of the gnarliest parts of the pandemic when, we didn't really know if we were going to be leaving our house that much for a while. And I probably hadn't. Oh, I thought of something that happened before that. Well, I'll get to that. They'll be out of order. But during the pandemic, I was shocked one morning to look at my notifications. Diana had ordered a copy of every single album that I had on my website all at once. And if you know anything about my music, I have a lot of albums. So this literally got me through a month of uncertainty at a very vulnerable time, and I was just astounded that someone would do that. I don't know how she would ever have time to listen to all those albums, but I made a package and delivered them to her and Claude, and that was a special way to reconnect during a kind of a tricky time. I just remembered a thing before that I wanted to say that a lot of people here probably don't know, but when the ghost ship fire happened and this community was really reeling from some very significant losses, Diana just kind of announced that she was hiring a professional grief counselor to hang out at the Voyeur for anybody who wanted to drop in. And I think that maybe China and I might have been the only people who showed up, but we could just, sit at the table, and I didn't feel like I needed to speak to a grief counselor necessarily, but like, this is something that she had done. Like, we will be at this place at this time if you want to meet and talk about what you're feeling from this terrible loss, this experience that affected so many people that will be here. And so I really appreciate that somebody when hardships come to a community, that there's someone who would even consider to take the initiative and organize something like that was a very beautiful thing as well. And I'm sure I'll think of a half a dozen other things I'd like to say after I get off stage, but I'm going to give you just a little bit of music to say the things that I can't express verbally.
So that was your freshman year. That helps me put dates to things. That was 34 years ago. 33 years ago. But like the funny thing about that story, and this I've known those two for the last 34 years, is just it was just another night in so many ways. Like I mean, it really like it's an epic story now, but it was just another night for me of hanging out with Diana. Like I was there in there and I was like, what are those guys doing? She's like, I don't know. Like, and I remember walking through chaos with the water swirling, and I was like, I don't get it. And it's like, I didn't. This is the thing about being 18 in Olympia or 20 in Olympia, or heck, even 30 in Olympia. A lot of the stuff that goes on, you're just like, it's just another day. And it's like, there's so much of this stuff at 18 I did not appreciate, which I love and feel so lucky to have even just walked down the hallway while that was happening. And it's just, that was because of Diana. She was that glue. Just getting to be there because she was there it's really rad. Amy Basil wants to come up and speak. And then if anyone else wants to speak, let me know, please, because we're about towards the end. So thank you.
Hi, friends of Diana and family, Susie and Claude. I brought my good friend Nicole Osa up here with me because it's always less scary to do something with your friend. And I don't know, Nicole, if you want to share a few words about Diana too, but it's been fascinating to me to be here today and to experience this whole other universe that was Diana that I didn't even know. I met Diana in a cubicle at a state office. We both served as public servants in the Aging and Long-Term Support Administration for several years together. And I had the very good fortune of having Diana serve on my volunteer team of local coordinators for the Combined Fund Drive. And for those of you who don't know, the Combined Fund Drive is a program that is available to state employees so that they can sign up to give to different charitable organizations of their choosing through a payroll donation. And so we pulled together this campaign because, you know, she knows how to organize some stuff. And if you don't know, she was brilliant at her job, her state job. As a management analyst, the woman knew her way around a spreadsheet, right? And I was just so very touched by Diana's tremendous compassion, her humility, her joy that she brought. We shared deep passion for so many of the same causes. And it was such a tremendous honor to know and to work with her. And she made an incredible impact. I nominated her that year, and she won the statewide award through the Secretary of State's office for Rookie of the Year for the Combined Fund Drive. Thinking of Diana as a rookie is kind of funny. Actually, right? It really is. But it was her first time doing it. And like, hell yeah. Yeah. Yeah, Nicole and I had worked with her. And it's funny how the world of Olympia is small. And we know this all the time, right? But Nicole and I both worked at Aging and Long-Term Support Administration. And what I didn't know is that she knew Diana from before. And so I'm going to let Nicole share a few words, and then I want to share a quick song with you.
Hello, Diana, friends and admirers. I first met Diana when I was probably 20, just enough younger to be completely impressed by her. And for her to, without knowing, become really my blueprint of what I wanted to be. As a slightly, she's like 5 years older than me, but at the time, 20 to 25 is really a big deal, right? I met her when we were both working for Wright Enterprises in the mid-90s. I think I started there in 1996. And as a local Olympia teen, I had encountered her from afar here, backstage here, and been completely like, wow, who's that really, really cool looking woman over there with the bangs and the lipstick, doing everything. And then I met her at Wright Enterprises and was completely overwhelmed by admiration. Dinah had no idea because I was too shy to tell her. But I just was so impressed with her and just thought, wow, she's the coolest person I've ever met. If I'm lucky, I might get like 1% cooler like that. And then years and years went by, and I didn't encounter Diana for a long time, which is kind of amazing in Olympia, until I came to work at Aging and Long-Term Support Administration. Amy and I worked together, and then Diana came there, and I was so excited because I had never really talked to Diana when I was at Wright Enterprises because I was so much younger and so intimidated by this cool, cool person in my mind. And so I got to know her differently. And I got to tell her, Diana, this is how I used to, we worked together, and this is how I saw you. And I remember her kind of looking at me going, what? And so it was amazing to have this different experience where I had a little bit more maturity, and I could tell her, how she'd impacted me. I was really much younger, and and we could kind of laugh about it. But then I got to know this other part of her, and it was so delightful because, of course, she was as cool, right? Because she was Diana. She was also so incredibly kind and so brilliant and so kind with her brilliance, right? Because she's smart enough that she could just sort of, she could see everything that was going on around that really could be better, right? And I had this wonderful experience of being able to watch her be incredibly kind with her brilliance, right? Help people do better and be better and see how things could be better with incredible humility and without any kind of, rough edges around it. And I just became so much more impressed with her. And witnessing her, her love for her family when her father passed away, witnessing her love for her mom, witnessing her love for Claude, her love for her cats. It was something that made her grow into the blueprint for me of what I want to be as a person, how to be in the world, how to be in relationship to the people I care about most. So I'm just grateful to have known her and have had her blueprint.
I'm just gonna share a song that came to mind as we were here today that I think Diana would appreciate. And I think of her with her red lips and her red lipstick, wearing a red shirt just for her. Yeah. Oh, my love is like a red, red rose that's newly sprung in June. Oh, my love is like a melody that's deeply sung in tune. So fair art thou, my bonny lass, so deep in love am I, and I will love thee still, my dear, till all the seas gone dry, till all the seas gone dry, my love, and the rocks melt with the sun. Oh, and I will love thee still, my dear, while the sands of life shall run. Love you, Diana.
Thank you, Amy and Nicole. Nicole, that was awesome. Just because I know what you saw in her. Kathy Dawkins is going to come up and talk now.
Still having a hard time believing it. So I've got 4 things, memories of Diana I would talk about. I'll keep it brief because I know there are other people who want to share. But I feel like these 4 memories of mine sort of exemplify and encapsulate some of my favorite qualities about Diana. I met her when she first started at Chaos. I was already there, and it's just It's over 35 years ago. It's just hard to break it all down. Um, I'm like the least spontaneous person on the planet, but Diana was somebody who could get me to be spontaneous and not be afraid to try new things. And I remember once she and Claude called me from I-5 when I lived in Seattle, and she was like, hey, we're going on an Argosy cruise, and the friend who was supposed to go with us bagged out, so do you want to go? And I remember having a panic attack because I was going to have to like get dressed and leave the house and like do something, but I wanted to see her so bad, and I knew that she'd be proud of me for being brave. So I did it. And then I remember another time Tamara and I came down here to visit her after she'd left the house on Brown, and we had been telling her about this this SNL skit that was really, really funny, one of the funniest ones we'd ever seen. And she was like, well, it's Saturday, let's just turn on the TV. And the skit happened to be on that night. It was a repeat, and we watched it. It's on you all. If you haven't seen it, Google it, because it's hilarious. But I just remember the three of us laughing so hard, and that's one thing that, like, people always say, oh, I laughed until I cried. Diana really laughed until she cried. I remember so many moments, and I don't do that with other people, but with her, like, we just laughed so hard and so long that we just tears came to our eyes. And so I'll always remember laughing so much with Diana. I remember when I lived in Olympia, our Sunday card games with Calvin, the three of us would play hearts. Every Sunday we'd rotate different houses, and whenever Calvin or I would invite a fourth person, she'd get all mad because it messed up her strategy. Her heart strategy was based on a 3-person game. But we always had snacks, and we always got Le Petit Collier cookies, and which is why I cleaned out Fred Meyer before I came here, and there's 11 boxes out there, so if there's extra, take them home. But the thing is, you have to say Le Petit Collier, because that's how she and I would say it. We'd go to the store together, and we'd buy them, and we'd like, what are we gonna get this time? Oh, I know, Le Petit Collier, because that's all we ever got. And then the last memory is my favorite memory of Diana. When I first met her, she was living in an apartment on Division, and it was like a 2-story apartment. There was an external stair to it, but she was able to have a garden outside. And one night she invited me over for dinner, and then my dad, with whom I did not have a good relationship at the time, but later I did, he just surprised me. He was like, oh, I'm coming to Olympia to see your grandparents, and I want to take you out to dinner. And I was like, well, I'm already having dinner with my friend, and I told Diana about it. She's like, invite him, bring your dad. And I said, okay. And he came, and she took nasturtiums from her garden and put them on the salad that we ate. And he talked about that for decades. And he just loved it. He just loved the fact that I had this friend who had a garden and put flowers on her salad. And he died a couple years ago. And when he was in the hospital, he was having strokes. So a lot of the time he wasn't lucid. But he would still turn to me and say, remember when I came and visited you in Olympia and your friend had me over for dinner and put nasturtiums on our salad? I'd be like, yeah, Dad, I remember that. And so she had such a lasting impact on someone who even only met her one time. And that's what I want us all to hold in our hearts, that she was just this amazing person who had a huge impact on more people than we even know. So thank you.
One of the beauties of people sharing their stories is, for me, it's unlocking entire rooms. So when Kathy talked about Diana's apartment, all of a sudden the kitchen was there. I mean, it's like you remember what the stairs felt like, and now you can see her kitchen, because before that, all I was picturing was us on the couch in that apartment watching X-Files, because that's it was a warm, safe Friday night. But now I remember the kitchen. And it's like, also I remembers everyone's names, which in 30 years have lost me. So it's like, of course I remember Kathy and Diana talking about her, and so many folks. Anyway, it's just like, this is a great, thank you for all coming, because it's really, I hope it's doing some of that for you too. Julie Kellen is going to come up.
First of all, Kathy, the word that springs into my mind when I think about Diana is integrity. I was at, for those of you who don't know me, at Chaos for a really scary number of years, like 40 or something. But 13 of those, they actually, for some reason, paid me to be there. And during one of those years, Diana was the student program director. So we worked very closely together. Our desks were like this. We shared a phone, the whole thing. And Diana's cousin in his intro much earlier said, Diana lived with authenticity. And that was so true, that I knew that if you asked Diana's opinion about something, you would get real Diana. I looked around me and I saw people acting and speaking with prevarication and with pettiness and with fear. I saw that at the radio station. I saw that at the college. I still see it in today's world. Isn't that interesting? But I never saw it from Diana. I never did, and I massively admired her and still do for that. I've watched Diana and a lot of people in this room start out as enfant terrible at Chaos Radio, since we're speaking Francais this afternoon, and become pillars of the community, and it's been a wonderful thing. It's a wonderful thing to be in this community in Olympia, and Diana was such an important part of that. I know you all feel that today, so thank you.
And now I remember who Julie is. It all comes back. She's like, I'm Julie Kelly. It's a weird thing when I'm like, come and tell me, and then I'm like, what's your name? Like, and you're like, I should know everyone. Speaking of someone I only know as my friend Mark from high school, who I don't think we've met before, but here he's coming up. Not my high school, Diana's high school. Friend Mark, who has been in some of the early photos.
So, I'm Mark Buchanan. I met Diana in 1985, which is weird because I'm only 39. And I kind of wanted to hide behind that because, anyway. So, I have a lot of thoughts in my head about Diana, and I wasn't sure if I wanted to get up and say any of them, but my therapist, of all people this week, said do it. And I'm trying to... So Diana and I did not get along when we first met. She actually screamed at me that she hated me, and I called her a bitch. So we spent all of high school constantly together, concerts, parties. We shared a locker for 2 years. Brian, Monica, and Diana, who are also here. But we didn't get along. And I'm kind of hoping the prom photo will pop up here, but I remember we went to go take these photos at Yen Louis Studio after prom, and Diana reached for my hair, and I flinched because I thought, well, she's going to hit me because we don't get along. And she's like, no, relax, I'm just fixing your hair. I thought, oh, okay, well, maybe she's not that big a bitch after all. And then our paths diverged as they do. And then I had to look this up on Facebook. So 2013, she reached out to me on Facebook and was like, hey, remember me? Yeah. And we connected, we started talking, kind of messaging back and forth. And like, are we getting along now? And I guess we were. And so, she invited me to a birthday party. I was out of town, unfortunately. She reached out to me after my 50th birthday colonoscopy, the only person who did, and said, how you doing? Sorry, I got a lot of thoughts here. I took a sabbatical on Facebook for a couple of years, and when I came back, she immediately pounced on me and said, "I've missed your wit and wisdom." I thought, who are you? And we just mellowed and found common ground, and we were at a concert together last summer. That was the last time I saw her. She was with Brian and her mom, and I can't remember if Claude was there or not, but she had texted me saying, "Hey, I think we're at this same concert, and why don't you come say hi?" And I did, and there's a picture of us is from that concert is going up on the slides, and I'm just really glad we came full circle, she and I. And I'm only giving you little snippets, but she gave out a lot of kindness to me over the last, 12 years, 13 years now. And so all of the people that have gotten up and said the things about Diana, it's like, I'm glad that I can actually agree with them, because we did not start out well. So rest in peace, Diana. My condolences. She was definitely one of a kind. Thanks.
And now I'd like to bring up Brian. There he is.
I'm not a sound engineer, sorry. So my name is Brian Rice. Thanks for the comic relief, you're welcome. So I've known Dinah since we were 15 or 16 years old. And there is this saying that you don't really know somebody unless you knew them at 15. And I gotta say, I feel very privileged that I knew her before she became the Diana that many of you know. It's almost like knowing the Buddha before he becomes the Buddha. It's just, you know them as the dorky, geeky person that is not amazing. I lived in LA for a while in the 90s, and Diana came to visit me, and strangely, she just happened to know this guy named Beck, who had just come out with a record. And so suddenly she's calling Beck, and Beck is coming to my house, and we're having some beers, and then we go to some party, and people are trying to pass her demo tapes, and I'm like, how is my friend this famous in the city that I live in? It was stunning. But like everybody said here, she was brilliant. She was fearless. She had the funniest wit, as many of you know. But the thing that really stands out for me is she was somebody who could use her powers for evil, but she chose not to in most cases. But she did use it for evil when it was deserved. So that's kind of my takeaway of her. And again, I did not plan to speak at this, so my thoughts are a little bit jumbled. But when we were kids, we were able to build a community. A lot of us didn't feel safe in our homes, and she was part of creating some safety where most of us didn't feel we had a place to be. So that's it. Thanks.
Thanks, Brian. And now, Steve Fisk. I feel like I want to not warm up, but just, there would always be a Diana and Steve Fisk's story. Yeah, well, there was always, it's just one of those names. There's always these names that would come up in conversation with Diana, and one of them was Steve Fisk. Thank you.
I will use the podium because I think it goes with a hat. Thank you, everybody, for talking. This is really cool. I'm going to break the confidence here and actually quote my dear friend Diana, complaining. Because I am an audio engineer, because I'm a little older than Diana, I had the privilege of her complaining to me about some of you. But I'm not going to name names because my friend Arens said this is not a good time to make enemies. But we're going to talk about another radio station, another public radio station. And I'm going to edit a little bit. Anyway, Diana's telling me in a text, just looking over my friend Facebook post, she is upset because she could not get an interview for a position which she's very qualified for. And we talked about a few different things, and I said, I don't know what's going on but they've gotten incredibly ageist. Old bands, old DJs, old people aren't welcome there. In spite the Kurt Cobain and Chris Cornell death heads that they have over their doorway. Maybe you know who I'm talking about. Anyway. Yikes. I had a meeting with the then station manager several years ago. Set up our mutual friend, Paul Goldberg, to see if there was any way I could be useful to the station. He suggested that I volunteer wrapping cables. No lie. I have never been so offended. As you know, I have 17 years experience producing and hosting radio, engineering and recording experience, even production experience, an advanced degree in public and nonprofit management, budgeting, forecast experience, and experience managing a $1 billion state budget. I could do his job. But I guess I was over 40, so, and there's an emoji, their loss. So, okay, sorry, Diana. Hi, Dan, I hope you're listening. I've been making the funeral rounds here, and I got a poem that's very old, but it's kind of a winner, and it's by a tired old victim of the patriarchy named Lord Byron. And I love that there's a typo in this one, and it's got spread over the entire internet. So Lord Byron is misquoted because there's one version of the poem there. Anyway, it's called If That High World. Forgive me. This is for us. This is not for Diana. If that high world, which lies beyond our own, surviving love and dears, if there the cherished heart be fond, the eye the same, except in tears, how welcome those untrodden spheres, how sweet this very hour to die, to soar from earth and find all fears lost in thy light. Eternity, it must be so. 'Tis not for self that we so tremble on the brink, and striving to o'erleap the gulf, yet cling to being's severed link. Oh, in that future, let us think, to hold each heart, the heart that shares, and with them the immortals drink, and soul grow deathless theirs. Thank you. Now wish me luck getting down the stairs.
Did Steve Fisk just curse the audience, is my question to everyone in the audience. Robin, it's your turn to come up.
I'm not an audio engineer, but short. Okay. My name is Robin Bruce Kolke, and Diana and I met in 5th grade. So we were best friends through junior high. lot of fun adventures together. And I have been really enjoying, excuse me, I've been enjoying hearing all about Diana's Olympia life because from in high school on we kind of diverged, and we always she stayed in touch, but our friend groups kind of changed in high school. She kind of went goth route, and I went band geek route, and and then college, and we weren't much in touch through college and later. But Diana always kept track of me, and that's really an amazing thing because I am terrible at keeping track of people. And so I guess I would say, be like Diana that way. Keep track of the people that are important to you. Because I'm so grateful that she kept track of me. Sorry. Okay, I'm a crier. I mean, I cry at everything, so. But so it's been pretty emotional. A couple of funny stories that I thought of from junior high. We went one time and got haircuts. Now, Diana was my edgy, adventurous friend. I was not so adventurous and edgy, but haircuts one time, and we thought we were going to get, or at least I thought we were going to get like this haircut that had like a horizontal cut-in line in the back, and it ended up that the hairstylist thought we were talking about like a vertical line, and so one side was shorter and the other side was longer, and it was actually really cute, but it was not what I was expecting. And then after that, we got a extra or a double ear piercing on the side of the short hair. So it was fun. Another memory that came to mind was on one of our Sea Scout trips. I was very fortunate. She joined me in Sea Scouts for a while, and we went to Victoria. Oh gosh, we would have been, I don't know, 14 maybe, I don't know, and we're just wandering around, and we see a sushi shop, and this was something really different, because when you grow up 40 years ago in Auburn, sushi is really exotic. So we ate sushi, and so the first time, and we liked it, and it was fun. But there were even little plastic, the plastic sushi pieces in the window that were amazing, and we're like, wow, look at that. So that was a fun one. Let me see if I can find one of my other notes. Missing the bus. I was a bus rider in junior high, and I don't know if Susie remembers much, but from this, but I used to once in a while, well, more than once in a while, I would miss the bus so that I could walk home with Diana and we could hang out after school. And we'd be in a room and we would listen to music, and she played music that I would never ever have heard on the radio, even in junior high. And that was fun. And I could honestly tell my mom, I missed the bus. Can you come pick me up at Diana's? And and my mom knew that I was missing the bus on purpose, but so that we could hang out after school. As we were older and not really in touch for quite a while, but like I said, she still kept she kept track of me, and we were able to reconnect later as adults, and very different people with a lot of different views, but that didn't matter, because it's an amazing thing to be friends with someone who has different ideas from you. And I think that's something that we all should think about lately too, is finding the things that we have in common with people, and not worrying so much about the places where we disagree, because we can still enjoy each other's company. And I really enjoyed the times that Diana and I were able to connect over the last few years. And so I guess that's what I would remind everybody, is to be like Diana, be friends with everybody, and keep track of the people that are important to you. Thank you.
Thanks, Robin. Jason Traeger.
What an honor to be here and to celebrate Diana's life, which, I mean, the best, just the best. Literally, just like everybody has said, just a person of just integrity and courage and honesty. I mean, she was that bedrock person. She is that bedrock person because, of course, she doesn't die. You know, we don't die. We live inside of each other. And she'll always live inside of me. And I'm so profoundly grateful for that. It occurred to me when I heard the news of her death. I was meditating on it and on her and her spirit and inviting her to be present with me. And it just occurred to me, and I'd forgotten this, but all throughout my life, I've performed. And I'm a person like many artists and performers who I go through periods of expansion where I want to be out and I want to be in front of people, and times of intense retraction where I just do not want to at all. Like I can't even believe that I was the person who used to want to when I'm in that state, you know? And it's a real strong back and forth that I'm sure some people here can relate to. I'm actually in that kind of retractive time right now. I was not planning on coming up here, but hearing everybody speak, I was like, I have to share because it's not about me. This is about Diana and the community. So it feels important to me to share this. So all throughout my life, I've had that push and pull, and in the times where I've been in the position where I needed to go out and perform, but I did not want to, I would always say to myself, you're Jason fucking Traeger. Just, you know, I'm doing stand-up comedy. It's like sold out show, 800 people. I don't want to do this. And I would just go, you're Jason fucking Traeger. Go out there and do it. And I had forgotten that phrase came from Diana Arens. It became such a part of me that it was just this thing that I had that was mine. And until I heard the news of her passing, I had completely forgotten that was something that Diana said to me, probably here in the Capitol Theater, when I was telling her, I'm just like, I am done. No more music. I cannot do this. I don't have it in me. It's not a part of, you know, again, just going through that time where it's like, who is that person who wants to get on stage? I don't know who that person even is. And she just goes, I don't get it. You're Jason fucking Traeger. And I was like, oh, okay. And that just became a part of me for my entire life. And it has given me so much power and empowerment. And that made me think about what Diana represented to me. And I know so many of you have expressed this in different ways, but she was and is an empowered person. That's where she's empowered. She just embodied this sense of utter fearless integrity that I always fluctuate in and out of it. And so to have that person who is like, she's always empowered, and she passed that empowerment to me, and I was able then to give whatever gifts I might have had to share at any given time to others. And that to me is the essence of community and the thing that we give one another. And it's what got me up here today to share with you right now. So if you've gotten anything from what I've said just now, that's Diana giving to you. Thank you, and God bless you all.
I'm fucking Jason Traeger shirts are available in the lobby. I just stole that joke from Pat Malley just by walking by. I've done that a lot over the years. Yeah, Jason nailed it. I mean, it is. It's like you don't know the people she inspired, but she did, and she was always there, back there doing it. And you would just look at her, and she would say, "Go do it." And it's so nice to hear that it wasn't. I mean, that it was shared. That we all know that. Dominica Clark is coming up.
I'm Dominica. Hey, I'm Dominica. I wasn't, okay, in the spirit of Diana, I'm going to be brutally honest. I wasn't even sure if I was going to come today because some of you know this. I think she left this plane kind of annoyed at me. We had a thing, she gave me a piece of her mind, which I think was actually a gift, because we should all aspire to be really fucking honest, and say what we mean. And man, I wish I could make up with her, but I'm never gonna get the chance. Anyway, so just a background. Who am I? I've always we've had this. Both her and I have this strange, like, I don't know if it's symbiotic, but like we're like weird twins. Like we're both, like Jenny said, we're both fat girls with glasses and dark hair, and we both have been. I was involved with chaos and community radio since I was a teenager, 19. We have just this strange parallel. We both graduated from Auburn High School. Go Trojans! If you're not familiar with the Trojan mascot at Auburn High School, it's really fucking weird looking. Sorry about the language. And it's really inappropriate. It's like phallic and gross, and that's the Auburn High School mascot. So we both graduated from Auburn High School, but like 20 years apart or something like that. We both went to Evergreen. We both were chaos people. I'm a chaos person for life. It's weird how when I was a teenager, I was like, oh, I want to have a radio show, and I love music, and I want to play music for people, and it just, now here I am, and let's see, how old am I? 42, 40. So it's been something like 23 years, and I'm back at chaos. I thought I was done. I'm not, because partly because of people like her, and just who, sorry, I'm also just overly emotional and jumbly. Yeah, so we have these weird parallels. I also got an MPA from Evergreen, and did some public administration with state government. And anyway, what was my point? That she deeply inspired me. I think especially with chaos, community radio. It truly is like community. This community, by all the cool shows she put on. Like I just, the first time, one of the earlier shows I heard, I just will always think of her in Stereolab. Like that was probably the first time I heard Stereolab was on her show. Just there was something about the spirit of the way she did radio, because it's even in the name, free things are cool. Radio is free, and it's a free resource, and she was very much herself, and it's you being yourself and expressing yourself and sharing yourself with the community, which is what she did. And that's partly why I'm so into community radio still. People get to be ideally they'll get to be their authentic selves and share it with whoever just happens to be listening. So I'm back there at Chaos because I love it so much, and I know she did too, and I'm going to carry on as much as I can her spirit and be a living testament to her influence on me and so many others. And I think that's mostly wanted to say. I tried to put red lipstick on. It just not nearly look as good as she did a lip red, like nobody did it better. And I tried. But man, she rocked it. I tried to wear some bright red too, and yeah, style icon and radio icon to me in particular. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
It is weird. I saw her put on that red lipstick like a million times, but you don't think of it while it's happening. You only think about it now. I'm going to bring up Scott. Anybody else wants to talk, let me know. We're getting towards the end. Okay.
Hello. So I knew Diana in kind of a microcosm. I worked with her at Community Resources. I started in 2011, and I got kind of a unique perspective into who Diana was that I'm imagining a lot of you probably might not have been aware of, because it's working in supported living. It's a lot of the work we do is pretty confidential, and it's pretty limited what you're able to share with people outside of the agency. But I had, at first, when I started working with Diana, she'd been working at the same home for decades at that point, I think around 20 years. And she'd been supporting the same men for that whole time and knew them so well. And she was part of the team that had helped establish, that worked collaboratively with them to establish structure and help them find ways to thrive in their daily lives. And at first, a lot of the things that Diana would kind of give me feedback around, I didn't really understand, and I thought maybe Diana was just being really particular, or she was being like, trying to be controlling or whatever. But over time, I realized and it was over things that I thought were kind of petty, like, oh, you need to put the blender here, you need to put the notebooks here in this really specific spot. And it was because she knew them so well that she knew that some of these little particular things were what they needed to be able to thrive and get through their day. And she always put their needs at the forefront of the work that she did. And she was such a strong advocate. And I'm really thankful that I got the chance to work with her, even though at times I felt like she was being very critical. We would often communicate through the communication log. There'd be days when I'd come into shift and she would have left like 3 pages of notes for me and our coworkers about things we needed to do differently. But she always had the right priorities with making sure that she was centering the people that she supports and not making it about her and not making it about us and our petty squabbles. And I'm just so thankful that I was able to have some mentorship with from her, and I continue to carry the lessons I learned from her to this day, and I'm still at Community Resources, and I feel like her legacy definitely still lives on there.
The cool thing about hearing more about community resources is just that was always the reason Diana couldn't hang out at a given time. So if I wasn't hanging out with her or one of you wasn't, it's because she was doing such a great job at work. I'd like to bring Monica up, please.
Hi. Okay. I'm not a sound engineer either. I'm using the same tire joke. But I'm sort of tall, so hopefully this is going to work. I know Diana from high school, and I'm going to try not to cry. She was a year behind me in high school, and I was so intimidated by her. She was so fucking cool and kind of scary seeming from afar. But as soon as I got to know her and was like taken in by her, she became just one of the kindest and most loving and supportive friends I've ever had. And sorry, I didn't expect to be this. I thought I was going to be more pulled together, but sorry, hang on a second here. It's interesting to hear all these stories because I also went to Evergreen. I followed in her footsteps, but I came a few years later, and I was a quiet, shy person, and Diana was just kind of this force in Olympia, and it was just so interesting to see her in everyone else's view when I knew her from, kind of like Brian was saying, when we were just babies, just 15-year-olds, and okay, I'm a Spanish teacher, a high school Spanish teacher, and I'm gonna have to take your phone now. teléfonos guardados. Okay, sorry. Anyway, happens all the time. She was, and up till the very end, one of my most supportive friends. You know, we kind of went our different ways. You know, I moved to LA after college, but, you know, she would always check up on me. She came to visit me. When I later moved to New York, she came to visit. She was still so involved in music, and I always loved music, but I thought I knew about music, but then no, Diana, whole nother level. And she took me to shows. I don't think I was even going to shows at that point in New York, and like I think she took me to see the Mountain Goats, and I was like, who? Sorry, I don't know about these people. Introduced me to the band, and they were all like, oh, hey, Diana, and I was like, it was this fancy friend of mine. So she just was so generous like that and wanted everyone to see that world and experience music in that way, even if I was not as, you know, sophisticated in my musical tastes and so forth. And I still kind of like the Mountain Goats. Thank you very much, Diana. So there's that. She came to, my husband and I eloped, and we had like a little party afterwards, and she was one of my few friends from out here who was able to come, and I just was really touched by that. Like that was, you know, a big trip, kind of short notice, and actually some of the pictures that showed up in there were of her with some of my friends, because she took, you know, Diana, like when we were looking for photos, Susie, I was like, oh my God, Diana is the one who had all of the photos, right? Like she always had a picture of every event that happened, and we're all like, oh, I don't look good or whatever, but she always documented, and now we are gonna be, you know, grateful that we have those if we can somehow find them. But the idea that she has 12,000 photos of the white flowers, I'm like, that sounds accurate. One fun fact from when we were in high school together, everybody knows her as this lover of cats. I had cats growing up, and we had a little graduation party at my house. We lived at Lake Tapps, and so we went swimming in the freezing cold water in June, and it was like diving into a Slurpee, but, you know, Washington. But I had these cats, and she was like, I really like your cats. They're so cute. And by the end of the night, her eyes were almost swollen shut. And we realized that she was allergic to cats. And then somehow, miraculously, talk about, somebody was saying that she could, I mean, she was Diana fucking Arens. She was gonna figure out how to not be allergic to cats because she liked them so much. So I don't know what happened, but our famous cat lover, what, does somebody know? Did she take allergy pills or something? And it changed, right? I mean, she was powerful. Anyway, I'm just so happy to see all of these people here to honor her, and there are a lot of goofy pictures of us up there, and it's fun to see them and remember her. And too soon. This is way too soon. Anyway, I loved her. I still love her. Thank you.
It's weird coming up getting to comment on what everyone else says. It's like I get to talk 200 times. But the Mountain Goats was also introduced to me by Diana, and John wrote a really nice thing on Facebook about her as well. That was Susie's phone, so you can't be mad or think it's weird. Or it was someone else's. I see her passing off the blame, and that's fine. Jim is going to come up and say something.
It's easy to say you want to do it until you start doing it, and then you're like, God, am I going to go up and just cry? I'm going to keep it pretty short. On my way up here with my son in the car, we put on a bunch of music that Diana loved, that I loved, that I probably learned from her. And among those things, we listened to the first Carp album, and Carp played my 30th birthday party. Chris from Carp moved in with me later, and we were roommates. I worked with Jared and Scott at Thekla, but the first place I heard Carp was on Free Things Are Cool. And I came to Chaos having already done some college radio, but I'd always thought that college radio meant you did a radio show and you played records and you picked out the songs and you talked about them and you got in trouble for doing acid and stuff like that. But Diana let me realize that you can bring bands on here. You can like learn to engineer or find somebody else to do it for you. I lean towards the latter. And it was a whole new thing. And she was such an emblem of the DIY culture in Olympia. I mean, she didn't invent it, but she mastered it. And she taught us how to do it. That the thing with Free Things Are Cool is that she was providing lessons every week without ever maybe even knowing that she was. And it influenced me, and I started not only having bands on, but putting on shows, and ended up putting on 25 years of experimental music fest here in Olympia. Couldn't have ever wanted to even do it without having seen her at it. And she's one of those people that we weren't instantly friends. You had to earn that with her, really. And we were allies first. There was some tension going on at Chaos that the managers wanted to have block programming where you knew exactly what was going to be on at every time of the day, and they wanted to push the music up so it started at 11 p.m. I mean, that's really what they wanted at the time. And it's funny because I'm friends with all those guys now, but they were enemies then, and she and I were allies, and through that friendship developed. And there was one night where I was doing my show, or I was coming in to do my show because I was following Free Things Are Cool, and she was there, and she announced that I was coming in and said, and he's a community treasure. And I was like, oh my God, Diana's saying that about me? And it's stayed with me, and I don't like to even say it because I don't like to sit here like I'm bragging on that. It's just to hear that from her was just such an amazing compliment. And we became closer after I left Olympia. I've been gone 22 years, living on Olympia Street the whole time. I don't even understand. But we became friends on Facebook, and I think we got a lot closer as real friends through being away from each other. And she was such a positive force online in a world where there's so much crap online and so much like divisiveness and people like unfriending each other and becoming not friends because they didn't understand the way they wrote something in text. I feel like I know Susie and I know Claude just from her posts of them. And what wonderful people, to see her with them. I mean, so, the first thing I thought when I saw it was just, I'm really going to miss her.
Anybody else want to come up? All right. This was fantastic, I think. It was this is not my thing normally to go to these, and it's like for Diana, but more for Claude and Susie. I just wanted to be here, and I'm so glad I did. I loved hearing what everyone had to say, and I just could feel her in the room with us. I think I was looking at her a few times where she was here, and she was always the one I could lean over and make a joke about whoever was talking to, and I would have if she was here. No, I mean, you know what I mean. I mean, that was us, and it's like, I'm going to miss her, and I know all of you will, and I really appreciate everybody coming out and getting to be here and share a little bit with her. Thank you. Have a good Saturday.